Karina's on the Spotlight video right now. First of all, I was wondering if we could have a quick blessing. I know that we're on virtual Zoom film here, but we've got a lot going on in the world, and I thought it might be nice just to allow us to all center here together for just a quick second.
Sure. So, Hodeshe Tuhi Ka'atlashanka Ka'atra'akrina. Thank you so much, Melinda, for showing the film. I just want to say thank you for everyone that's on Zoom right now, and I offer a quick blessing. Grandmothers and grandfathers, we thank you for this day and for this gathering. I ask that you take care of all of us during this time and protect our loved ones and those that are far and near, those that are behind the walls, those children that are without their parents right now. We ask for special blessings for those that are inside of their homes that are in bad places. We ask for good things right now, grandmothers and grandfathers, for us to open up our minds to a different world, for a different way of being together as human beings. We ask that we use this time to grow good things, both in our garden and in our hearts. We ask that we continue to watch over each other as a good community and to take care of one another in good ways.
Thank you so much. So I was, just to start out, I was hoping that you could give us a quick update about the developments that have taken place since the film was made, I believe in 2014.
Yeah, so we have become our own nonprofit. Segurite Land Trust has been blessed. We finally got our nonprofit status at the end of last year, and so that was amazing process. Before that happened, though, we received a piece of land, our first piece of land to be given back to us, both Ohlone people and Indigenous people on this land on 105th Avenue in Oakland 2 years ago. We have a 1/4 acre of land that's there that we are taking care of. We've put an arbor up on that land. We're growing medicinal plants. We have a built-out container that we have called Hametka. Hametka in our language means a place of gathering. And we've created this place as a place for not just our community, but people that live in this community to be, let's see, it's like a touchstone, a place where folks can go that's safe in times of disaster, both human-made and natural-made disasters. Where we are centered is in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Oakland. And for many of us that know, when there's natural disasters or man-made disasters like Katrina or other things that have happened, that are definitely those poor neighborhoods that never are taken care of. And so we are hoping to have a place where folks in the neighborhood and work at Planning Justice and Segurite will have a touchstone. So medical supplies and solar paneling and fresh water. We've created a water catchment system. But the arbor is also a place where, for Ohlone people, we haven't had in our territory in 250 years since contact. So it's an open structure. So that, and we have a fire pit in the middle. So it's a place of gathering for prayer and ceremony. And we're hoping to have an opening for the community. We were hoping to have one this spring, but it looks like the world decided that we needed to take a break. So we'll do it sometime probably in the fall or close to winter solstice.
Melinda, you're muted right now.
I know. Thank you. What impact do you think that the film may have had on Indigenous activism in the East Bay? And I don't know if Michelle, maybe you have some points too. Of course, Karina will have some points, but Michelle, if you'd like to jump in, or Robin as well, because I know that I have a very powerful emotional response to it.
Yeah, I actually think I want to defer this to Karina first, because
of course.
There was so much work happening for so long before we made the film.
Of course.
And so it's really hard for me to sort of be clear of how that context changed or didn't change. I think for me, I met Karina when we were doing the occupation of Segura Te that you see in the film. And we worked, I had the honor of working with her and Wounded Knee at that time, and Janella. And I think, I'm from the East Coast originally, from DC, and growing up, I didn't really have a sense of who were the Native people from the area that I lived. So I think coming out here and being a settler on this land, it was really critical for me to, become acquainted with what it meant to be on someone else's land. And, again, really, I'm only making films because I had the opportunity to work with Karina at Segura Te, and that calling came to me through that work. So, I mean, I think and hope that, it was on national PBS, and I hope that it enabled a broader awareness of her work and maybe helped support everything she's doing. But, as I said, all of that was happening for so many years before there was ever.
Thank you.
Karina?
Yep. Hey, thank you so much. That's an amazing question. Like Michelle said, that Indian People Organizing for Change had been doing work in the Bay Area around the protection of our sacred sites for 2 decades now or more. And it's been an amazing to be able to have this tool to talk about sacred sites in the Bay Area and what a land trust means, especially to non-federally recognized tribes. We didn't actually have a plan to do this land trust until after the occupation of Segura Te. And Beth Rose Middleton, who also is a professor at UC Davis, wrote a book called Trust in the Land. And it's specifically about Native land trusts. And I had not thought about a land trust until after the occupation, and she invited me to participate in a conference of Native land trusts in Southern California. There's only a handful of Native land trusts in the country, although there are thousands of land trusts all over the place that people are taking care of land and protecting things. But specifically, Native land trusts are very, very small. And so I came back after, almost 2 decades of work in the Bay Area, and non-federally recognized tribe means that we don't have a land base. And so the Ohlone people, there are no federally recognized Ohlone people. There are 8 different tribes of Ohlone people, and none of us are federally recognized. And so most of us don't own our home. And it's very difficult, as you know, during the Bay Area, the waves of gentrification that goes through here, it's pushed most people out of our own territory. But we were trying to fight about how do we bring our ancestors home? How do we get them out of these institutions and bury them again? And we have been trying to figure this out for many years. And it came to be that maybe a land trust was a way of doing that. But also a land trust is a way of us as Ohlone people and other indigenous people that have come to the Bay Area through forced relocation policies of the United States government to actually be able to really start doing the work with the land and bringing back cultural revitalization and songs and dance and language. And so that's part of it. And so what happened was when we released this film, it actually woke people up that maybe had not even heard about the work that we had been doing around shell mounds. In the film, you saw us doing walks, and we did walks around the Bay Area for 4 years, doing that kind of thing. But I think that the work that Robin and Michelle have done in creating this film actually gives it a national focus, and I think even international, right? And Michelle, this film is shown internationally in different places to talk about what does it look like to be landless in your own home, and what does it look like to actually use a tool to actually get some of your land back. And I think that this film, Beyond Recognition, has actually really catapulted that idea out for us here in the Bay Area, but other people around the country thinking about doing the same thing. Yeah. How do we begin to get land back into indigenous stewardship, and what does that mean especially in an urban area. And because Ohlone people's territory is mostly all urbanized. And so the Segorte Land Trust is the first urban Indigenous women-led land trust in the country. And, you know, so I had one of my friends said, oh, maybe the world. And I said, well, maybe it is. I don't know. But it definitely helped as a catalyst for people to begin to have the conversations. I'm really thankful that Michelle and Robin did so much work in order for us to really talk about this story.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it too, because, and your answer, you said exactly what I was hoping you would say, in that, you know, it framed the movement in such a way that it was able to go out to a lot of people and also inspire others to, you know, make a difference in their own life, which is, you know, kind of a little bit similar to what we try to do here in the museum as well. So this is something that is interesting to me, and I hope to the rest of the community here. But my second question is more local to Richmond, and that is, you know, we have a whole complex, several complex of shell mound in Richmond, and many of those ancestral remains at UC Berkeley come from shell mounds in Richmond. And I would love to hear more, if you know, hopefully you could share your thoughts on what is the Native perspective on shell mounds in Richmond. And, you know, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, you know, Ellis Landing, the Steege Mound Complex. There's a whole series.
Right. So thank you for that question. I think that people in the Bay Area are still unaware of what these shell mounds are, or how many there were. You know, there were 425 of them that was found by Nels Nelson in 1909. And that was when, you know, he felt that development was happening so quickly in the Bay Area that he had to put these down on a map before they disappeared. That was over 100 years ago that this man decided to do this, right? And it really is because he decided to do that we are able today to find those shell mounds and to reclaim them as these sacred places. For us, they're sacred. There are burial sites, there are cemeteries, you know, and it's interesting that in this new government that was created on top of our land, our burial sites have almost no help in saving them and preserving them. And I know that we talk about you know, there's Ellis Island, there's Stedger. The one that's really that I'm dealing with right now in Richmond has to do with the new development that's going to happen at Point Malati. And we are interested as a tribe about protecting those sacred sites. And it was interesting to me that there was all of these things that happened after contact and after the Mexican Rancho period that's being protected out at Point Malati right now. There's a Chinese fishermen's camp that was there that's protected under the state historic preservation laws. There are other buildings that are historical, and they know of shell mounds out there, but they are not inclusive of those shell mounds having the same protection. Yes. And so right now, as the city of Richmond is going through the process of trying to bid out with people to maybe build on that area, our lawyers are currently, right now, because the end of commenting period is April 14th, is to actually get them to protect those sites if they're planning on doing any construction out there or building out there. And so if there are folks that would like to support the Ohlone people and protecting our burial sites, because they're not just burial sites, they're landscapes, they're continuous places where our people lived along the bay. And so not only is it a part of our history, it's a part of the history today. These are the oldest places that human beings inhabited along the bay. And so for all of us, these should be important places to protect and preserve. And so we are looking for people to write a public comment to the city of Richmond to ask them for protection of the shell mounds that are at Point Malati. that the construction needs to take this into consideration, that they should qualify for a state historic landmark, if not a national historic landmark. We just won a case in the city of, with the city of Berkeley around the West Berkeley shell mound, the oldest of all 425 shell mounds, and the judge actually correlated the shell mound with the ancient ruins of places all over the world. And so these shell mounds are important to take care of. They are our points of reverence that we pray at still, and most of them are covered up with railroad tracks and parking lots and schools and bars and apartment buildings, but that does not make them any less sacred to us. That is still sacred land that's underneath the asphalt in the buildings. And so we look for our allies and accomplices that live in our territory now to help us in making sure that these places are preserved and protected, not just for our grandchildren, but for everyone's grandchildren that live here in our territory.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much. And I hope that the museum can support your work to mark and educate about our shared cultural heritage, something that the city of Richmond and the people of Richmond, we don't, not so many of us know about, but it's such a source of pride, another source of, inspiration that I can see for, Richmond has been a place of resilience for a lot of different people, and we can seek inspiration from the resilience of the first peoples in Richmond. So thank you for that. So I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'm gonna move on to my next question, and that is, how has the Land Trust led to further cultural and language revitalization? The Land Trust and the film, how has that led to or has it led to a further fluorescence of Ohlone revitalization? You've got a place of your own now, so that's so exciting.
Yes, thank you so much. And we're also looking for more land. And so we're happy to talk to other people, considering that this is all of our territory.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're always looking for extra land. So the first quarter acre of land it was a beautiful blessing. We're also taking care of some land through a verbal communications with the UC Berkeley Guild Track Farm in Albany. And we have a long-term lease at a community garden in West Oakland that we renamed Ramai. And Ramai in our language is West. And so my daughter, Deja, is the language carrier for our tribe. And is really working on bringing back the language in a different kind of way. And so we've been, it's been amazing since the Land Trust started that we've been able to secure a little bit of funding so that she can begin to do the work of having language classes for the tribe, and is really working on identifying plants and trying to put those out there on the land with some of the medicinal plants that we're using. And she's creating some small, she's created a small video, I believe, during this whole COVID-19 about washing your hands and using our language to do that. So it's really been a blessing to do to have those language come back into coming back to life. I think one of the things that's most important is that for us, it's important for us to begin to speak the language again. My great-grandfather, my daughter's great-great-grandfather, was one of the last speakers of the language. And so it's important for us to bring that language back. It's been asleep for quite a while. Jose Guzman passed away in 1939, and a year before my mother was born. So it's really important for the language to come back, because language has a in our ways, it sounds a lot different the way you say things than it comes across in English or Spanish. And so it's a beautiful language, and the songs need to come home. And so those things are being looked at. And then we're also learning a lot about Thule gathering and weaving. And we've gone to, we've had the honor and opportunity to go to the British Museum to have ceremony with some of our baskets there, to sing to them and to have ceremony and to talk to those relatives. And we believe that they're relatives of ours because, our ancestors created them and put in the music, the songs, and the prayers on and those particular items for us. And so all of these things have happened since the land trust was started off. And so I believe that the work that we did protecting and preserving the sacred sites around the Bay Area for the last few decades and putting down those prayers at these places that look to the Western eye like I said, parking lots and other places, that our ancestors have heard those prayers and have helped us to open up these doorways for us to bring back all of these things. We're hoping to create a partnership with one of the universities to open up a way for us to recreate regalia, to bring those dances back with regalia. And we're talking to the University of California, Berkeley, about their NAGPRA responsibilities and how to bring those ancestors back in a respectful way that heals both the Ohlone people and the university and their responsibilities of what they've done in the past. And so, so we're moving forward in a lot of different directions now.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful. So and that's something that is so important, I believe, for the Ohlone people as well, because there is so much cultural data tied in with language that it is just so exciting to me to hear that the language is being revitalized. So thank you so much for that. So it is 6:22 now. I just wanted we got one great question from the audience, and I wanted to address that. And the question is, why were the shell mounds in the Bay Area not preserved like say, Cahokia in Illinois? And
yeah, thank you so much. I ask myself all the time, what is going on? Why are our shell mounds not given the same protection, not just of Cahokia, but, many different places. We would look at the Bay Area and probably look at some of the monuments that people have put up since contact, and those have more protection than the burial sites of my ancestors. And why is that? And I think that when we look at the history of the United States, we have to look at California as a very different history. The history of California is only a little over 200 years. When we are looking at when the creation of the Declaration of Independence in 1776 was happening, folks were fighting on the East Coast. It was just around that time that the Spanish were bringing their missions up the state of what is now the state of California. So colonization happened here in the Bay Area much differently than it happened to the folks on the East Coast, in a much different timeline. Things that have happened here happened more recently. And because of the violence that happened during the colonization, there was a colonization of the Spaniards, then there was a colonization of Mexico, then the United States came and they stole the land a third time through a war with Mexico. And at that time, when the United States took over what is now the state of California, there was not about creating treaties, it was about the mass extermination of Native people. And people are still reeling behind the trauma of having to deal with that not so long ago. So imagine that most people in California don't know that the first laws that created California was the extermination laws backed by the federal government of hunting Native people, $5 a head and 25 cents an ear. After that wave went through, there was about really tearing young people away from their parents and sending them to boarding school. It's wave after wave of these genocides that happened in California history that we don't talk about, and has made it very difficult now for us to talk about saving the shell mounds in our sacred places because they didn't see us as human beings when they were destroying them. And it wasn't until recently, probably my lifetime, that folks have really started feeling comfortable about talking about the history of what happened to our people and telling the truth. When you look at what's going on in fourth grade history classrooms, that's when you hear about Ohlone people. You hear about us in the terms of the missions, and even while my children were going to school, they were taught that these missions were great places where they taught industry and farming, and to the mission Indians, which were Ohlone people, were some of those folks. And it didn't talk about the devastation. It didn't talk about the murder. It didn't talk about the disease. It didn't talk about the rapes. It didn't talk about any of those kinds of things. And then at the end of fourth grade, you hear nothing about Ohlone people anymore. It goes straight into the gold rush period and the horrifying things that happened, but it moves all the history of California up to Northern California above us. So there's been a paper genocide of Ohlone people in terms of teaching history, because you don't learn history, current history about what's happening with the Ohlone people. Most people think of us as extinct, and that's how we're taught. You might find a memorial about Ohlone people, but it doesn't talk about anything. I would encourage people to read Benjamin Madley's book, An American Genocide, that talks about California Native history. It was written a couple of years ago. He's done extensive research and talks about the genocide that happens here in California, and it hits all the criteria of the UN how they determine what genocide is. And so it's difficult for us to now have to heal from all of that, and then to protect our sacred sites when the laws that were created in the what is now called the United States, were laws that did not give American Indians any protection of their burials. Only burials that happened after the United States became a government on our territories, those burial sites are protected. Ancient burial sites are not. And so it takes a lot of work of our legal teams to get more legislation pushed through the state of California and other places in the country in order to get more protection over these sites. And it also takes our allies and accomplices working hand in hand with the tribal people in our territories to get that work done. And so we really are relying on folks that now live in our territories to be good guests and to help us to do this work, to preserve and protect these sites that are still remain here, that are important to our people, but should also be important to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so I think that we're going to go ahead, since we've already gone over. This is one thing that, Karina already knows, and all of the Indigenous folks already know, but the shell mounds that Karina were talking about, archaeologists and scientists are now going back and doing all of the scientific investigations and saying, hey, these shell mounds were never abandoned as the historical narrative says. We have very scientific data, backing up now what the Indigenous people have maintained all the time, saying that it was all the way up until the 1790s that people were coming back to these shell mounds and using it. So, I think I said here, paper genocide is an amazing term. It's not amazing, but it's such an elegant way to describe something so terrible that has happened, to erase this, real activity of the Ohlone people who persisted beyond the narrative of genocide. So I want to thank everybody today for coming up and spending your Saturday evening shelter in place with us. Like I said, when it is safe for us all to gather again, I hope to see you at the Richmond Museum of History and Culture. We are at 400 Nevin Avenue, accessible by BART. We are working to renovate our permanent exhibit with all of these wonderful community members, and to make a platform for people like Karina to tell their story. And the current temporary exhibit we have on right now is about Laotian refugees. And in fact, we have a great deal of people from Laos in our Bay Area, particularly in Richmond. And so please come over and learn more about what our Laotian neighbors had to go through to be here. And that is another very deeply inspirational tale. And just another quick plug is that we are looking at how Richmond responded to the Spanish flu. So if you're interested in knowing how people dealt with epidemics 100 years ago, check out our blog, because we have some great archives, and we are going through all of our newspaper clippings and looking at the Spanish flu. And in fact, a lot of things have not changed, including masks and social distancing and shortages. So thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. And thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Karina.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Take care. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Hey, good to see you, Robin.
Good to see you,
The film
Karina.
is so good. It's a
And
good
Michelle.
film.
Hugs.
The film is
All the other
good.
folks that.
It's a really good film.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you, Melinda, for hosting this, and thank you for everyone who supported or just participated in all of this. And yeah, it's exciting for me.
Well, and tell your friends about all this inspiration that we have right here in the Bay Area. You don't have to go to Rome to see and learn about amazing cultural heritage. It's right here.
That's true.
And it's right here. And we have these amazing cultural culture bearers like Karina, who are so charismatic and wonderful. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.